Testing 1, 2, 3. Okay, welcome to the 2020. Welcome to Weather Guru podcast for October 9th, 2024. This is the latest information on Hurricane Milton. Please be sure to subscribe to this channel here. Hurricane Milton, as of 8 a.m. Eastern Time, is a Category 4 storm with winds about 155 miles an hour on the top end of the Category 4 scale. Now, the system has accelerated. It's moving northeast at 14 miles an hour, and so it's on pace for a landfall somewhere between midnight and 1 a.m. Eastern Time on early Thursday morning. Now, with this being said, ladies and gentlemen, the good news is that Tampa Bay, St. Pete area is not going to see the worst of the storm surge. This is mostly going to be a wane, and wind event for them, meaning that the 15-foot storm surge is going to be coming down. They will be adjusting those numbers because the system is headed further south, the direct core of the system, with those possibly 120 mile an hour gusts to 140 mile an hour gusts are going to be heading south. So this means folks in Sarasota, southward toward Port Charlotte, Punta Gorda, Venice, they're going to be getting the brunt of it. It seems to be that core of the maximum winds and storm surge just immediately south of the center, as we know. So that's good news for Tampa Bay and St. Pete. They'll be having an offshore flow wind coming out of the northeast, and that's going to push water out of the bay. They may have an initial storm surge as a workup of the system as a landfall, but it's not going to be as bad. You're looking at maybe 6 feet or so, or between 4 and 6 feet of surge, not the 10 or 15 feet that they had forecasted earlier. They'll bring those numbers down gradually throughout the day. Now, I'm going to give you the latest information, and then I'm going to tell you what is going to be happening with the system and why it's doing what it's doing. Right now, the tropical storm force winds extend out 140 miles from the center. That's typical of a system of this size. The hurricane force winds, those winds above 75 miles an hour or greater, only extend out about 30 miles from the center. Right now, the system is undergoing an eye wall replacement cycle. This basically just means that the eye is reforming, it's collapsing and reforming, and that's going to spread the wind field out, of course. But it's also going to weaken the system because the system is feeling the effects of a cold front that it's merging with. So actually, when the system makes landfall, instead of it being a tropical entity, I don't want to get too deep in this, but instead of being it's really going to become extra tropical. So in other words, when it's crossing the state of Florida, it's going to be weakening and merging with the front. There's two things that can happen. Typically, when a hurricane is interacting with a front, right? The front can either pick it up and take it with it, or it can move in tandem with the front. In other words, together with the front. In this case, Milton is moving in tandem or together with the cold front that's going to be sweeping through the area, central Florida, or just below the I-4 corridor. Okay, so in this case, in any event, the storm is going to be weakening upon arrival. Right now, they still have it as going to be a major hurricane when it makes landfall, Category 3, with winds about 115 miles an hour, and that's about right. Technically, the storm really is going to be like a high-end Category 2, with winds somewhere between 90 and 100 miles an hour, basically. But because it's moving with a front, it has that extra energy that the Hurricane Center mentioned in the discussion, and so that's why they're going to keep it at around 115 miles an hour for a Category 3 type of storm, 120, 115 miles an hour. But technically, it's a high-end Category 2 storm that's going to be making a landfall once the eye wall replacement cycle is complete. The eye wall replacement cycle will be completed later on this afternoon. So by the 2 p.m. advisory, we should see those winds come down. Not much, but they should come down to about 130 or 125, somewhere around that range, okay? And then it'll continue to weaken as it continues to get absorbed into this cold front, basically. So, and then landfall, like I said, it's going to be a minimal Category 3, somewhere around 115 miles an hour. Really 110 to 100 miles to 110 miles an hour. Category 2, really what it should be. But because it's merging with the front, it'll keep a Category 3, a major hurricane status, barely, at the time of landfall, okay? Now, as it moves on, this is going to be, the good news is also for the whole area, regardless if you're in Sarasota or Tampa or one of the areas south, is that the good news is this is going to be a fast-moving system. If you look here, by 2 a.m. Thursday, it makes landfall, right? And then by 2 p.m. Thursday, it's already on the other side of the coastline, past Melbourne Beach or whatever, and heading out to sea. So that's great news too. There's a fast moving. That's also going to work to limit the rain totals here. You see, there's a lot of available moisture, but there's also a lot of dry air on the backside, and that's why Milton is cut off in the northwest quadrant. There's not much convection in the northwest quadrant and the southwest quadrant because dry air, all this orange here you see, is cut off and is merging with the front. So a lot of dynamics is going on here, and it's basically going to lead to a huge weakening trend of Milton. Really, it should really, but they'll keep Milton at a category 3, like I said, as a 115 miles an hour. But really, it's a category 2. Once it becomes closer to land, it's going to have all the interaction. So it really should come in as a 105 to 110 mile an hour storm, but they'll keep it at a 115 to 120 just for the sake of, it's the energy that's following it with the cold front and everything. So now look at the wind shear also. Heavy wind shear is affecting Milton right now. You can see this in the pink and purple here, just above Milton, and Milton's ingesting all of this because it's a big storm. The bigger the storm, the bigger the circulation, the more it's going to be influencing by fronts, frontal boundaries, or different atmospheric conditions around it. And so sometimes they can create their own weather. I know that the mature hurricanes can do that, but not in this case, because we have a lot of cool, dry air to the north here, and it's ingesting that into the circulation. So we'll see what type of shape it comes outside of the when Milton comes outside of the eyewall replacement cycle later today at 2 p.m. So anyway, look for a weakening trend. The main news is that, and also look for a trend further to the south, the cone to shift further to the south for the main impacts in terms of this landfall of where the core of Milton will come across. Now, right now, the core of Milton is forecast to come across somewhere between off 275 there south of Bradenton and Sarasota. I look for that to shift further southward, maybe toward Venice, somewhere around there. Venice or somewhere southern of the county, of the major population centers of their counties, in Bradenton and Manatee and Sarasota County. So look for it to come ashore south of Venice, Osprey, something like that. Around that area, and maybe even further south than that. Okay, and that's going to mean lesser impacts for people inland, like Orlando. They'll have basically a rain event, maybe some gusts of tropical storm force gusts getting up to 40, 50, but nothing too crazy. And that's also going to mean lesser impacts for Tampa. As like I said, they'll get the initial surge when it comes to make landfall, as the winds will be coming directly out the southwest, from the southwest out the Gulf. But the storm surge will probably only be maybe the same as Helene, maybe 4 to 6 feet of storm surge, 7 feet maximum if they even get that. So they'll get 4 to 6 feet, and then the water will be going outside, be going the other way, because the water you'll get an offshore breeze in Tampa, St. Pete, and Spring Hill and all these areas. They probably won't even get a surge at all, because they'll probably get less than 1 to 3 feet. Because if the system is making landfall way south, that means the winds are going to be coming off the northeast, offshore breeze. Now, if you're in Manatee County or Sarasota County, obviously you probably want to evacuate if you're on the coast, but you don't have to go that far inland. Once again, the storm surge is only going to be impacting the first 1 to 3 to 4 miles inland. Okay, anybody who's 10 miles inland or more are not going to see storm surge. It's not going to go that far inland like that. So, and the maximum storm surge with this probably, but because it's a larger area, they're probably right with that. It's going to be 10 feet, at least 10 feet. Or more possibly when it makes directly south of the eye. Okay, so if you're in, once again, if you're in Anna Maria Island, Longboat Key, places like that, you definitely want to evacuate. Obviously, you're going to be overtaken with a lot of water. That's where the area is going to be a concern all the way through Lido Key, Sanibel Island, Pine Key, those same areas that Ian almost hit, but this one's gonna be different than Ian, because this one's gonna make landfall not on Big Pine Island and all that. It's gonna be a little bit north of that, north of the Cascousie Bay and Cape Coral and stuff, and Port Charlotte and all that. So it's gonna be north of that, and it's gonna be more toward Venice, Osprey. That's where the landfall is gonna be, and then it's gonna track directly south over more of the unpopulated Central County, Highlands County, and all of that. Some of the central areas that are Winter Haven, Avon Park, Sebring type of deal, just to the north of those counties in the heartland, the nation's the Florida's heartland counties, and it's gonna come across here and exit somewhere along the Space Coast. Could be Melbourne Beach, it could be as far south as Cocoa Beach, or Indianola, or something like that, and then they'll be quickly. But the good news is that it's a quickly moving system here. Like I said, once again, it's going to be making landfall as a category. I believe it should be a Category 2, a high-end Category 2 with winds of 110 miles an hour. But because there's so much energy with the front, it probably will just barely keep a Category 3 status, 115 mile an hour or so, and it'll make that landfall quickly weaken as it crosses the state to a Category 1 hurricane by the time it makes 2 p.m. Thursday. So it's a quick moving storm. And rainfall totals, once again, rainfall totals with this type of system In the central interior counties, this is going to be different. Most time we think of the right front quadrant as being the most strongest dominant quadrant. It is in terms of the storm surge and winds, but in this case, the rain is going to be scattered to the north. So anybody, because the way it's going to be a comma shaped type of storm because it's cut off by this dry air here, and you see in this orange, okay? So those of you are going to get the most rain is going to be to the north of Orlando. So you're talking places like Deltona, Ocala, Wildwood, Gainesville, even south of Jacksonville, like St. Augustine, Flagler Beach, places like that. You guys are going to get the heavy strip of rain anywhere in the order of 8 to 10 inches, 12 inches, a foot maximum, okay, because the system is moving so fast and it's going to be cut off with this merging with this frontal boundary that the rainfall totals are also going to be muted. But they are going to be localized flooding areas in those typical areas. Like I said, even though Tampa's not in that zone, you still, I mean, it's going to be in the worst of the storm surge. You're still going to have flooding, some flooding in South Tampa that usually floods that you know, and some flooding along St. Pete and Clearwater beaches that you know is going to be happening in some of those areas. So, like I said, it's good that they evacuated everybody from those areas. Now, if you look at the structure also of Milton, like I said, you notice the western side is cut off here. The dry air is already ingested into the system. It's merging with the cold front right now. It should be weakening here, but you never know. But it should be weakening down to a Category 3, Category 2 when it makes landfall. I believe, that's my projection, is that it's going to weaken to a Category 2, 110-mile-an-hour storm, making landfall sometime between midnight and 1 a.m. It's actually speeding up. It's moving northeast. I tell you, and this is another telltale sign, ladies and gentlemen, that it's merging with the front, is that it's speeding up. It's moving northeast at 16 miles an hour almost. So this may be a quicker landfall than many people have thought because it's speeding up. So it's merging with the cold front up here. And that's why the system is speeding up and it's going to be weakening. And so you're going to have that enhanced rainfall with the cold front and the hurricane merging together like that. And that's why we say there's going to be localized urban flooding and street flooding, and as well as flash flooding, of course, in those central Florida areas. So anybody along the I-4 corridor should prepare for that. Lakeland, Tampa, Orlando, Deltona, Daytona Beach, Flagler Beach, St. Augustine, down towards Cocoa Beach, Melbourne Beach, Indianola, all the way down to Indian River County. Those people that live west of the Turnpike in Osceola County. And some of those people in the highlands and the protected areas like Claremont toward the Florida Turnpike, those areas need to prepare for some potentially flooding rains. Tornado threat is also there, of course, in the right front quadrant, ladies and gentlemen, but it's not going to be a prolonged tornado threat because the system is moving pretty fast, and most of the convection will be actually to the north of the eye and northeast of the eye. So if we get some of the outer bands that come in, tornado threat will probably be until just before midnight, and then after midnight the tornado threat will diminish significantly to the north because the system is going to be traversing over the peninsula very fast, so much so that by Thursday in the morning or Thursday afternoon, in the morning tomorrow, it's almost clear across the state. By 12 o'clock, you're going to wake up by tomorrow lunchtime, and the storm will already be traversed across the whole state just about. That's how fast the system is going to be moving because it's merging with this cold front. And the weather is going to be improving, and conditions should be improving for everybody by guaranteed by 5 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. You might even see the sun out with a lot of these places because the system is moving. It's going to be moving just that fast. So here's the recap for those who just come in. System is going to be making landfall somewhere south of Sarasota. I'm predicting like Venice, Osprey, something like that. Okay, it's going to make a landfall there as a Category 2, high-end Category 2, like 110 miles an hour. It comes in, and the tornado threat elevates, the rain threat elevates. Maximum rain to the north, surge to the south. Okay, surge is still going to be forecasted to be somewhere between 10 and 12 feet. That's going to be mostly for Sarasota and the county to the south of that. In those areas to the south. Okay, Tampa, you guys are in the clear in terms of storm surge, not in the clear totally, but you're only going to see about Tampa, you're only going to see about 4 to 6 feet of surge basically with this storm coming in the way it's coming in at an angle. And then because you're going to have offshore winds once it makes landfall. Okay, so that's going to be good news for you. And on all points north of there, like Cedar Key, you're in the clear. You're not going to see much surge. You're going to see the general water level rise because the system's been out there for a couple of days like a bathtub. So you may see a general water level rise of maybe 1 to 3 feet, something like that. And all those places to the south, Spring Hill, same thing. You may get 3 feet of surge, but nothing too crazy. On the East Coast, you're going to see surge once it gets, the surge will be worse once it pulls away. So somewhere between 5 p.m. Thursday you're going to see the worst surge as it pulls away from the coastline and throws that angular jet back toward the coast. Those winds back, those northeast breeze back toward the coast there, as the counterclockwise circulation pulls away as well. Now, also, I want to say, like I said, the movement is northeast at 16. So expect the movement to increase again. We get a next advisory at 11 a.m. So you can expect the movement to increase again to 18 to 20 miles an hour. It's speeding up because it's merging with the front. Now, if you're in Port Charlotte, Punta Gorda, down towards Fort Myers, Florida, you're going to be experiencing heavy wind as well and breezes for a time. But the system's going to rapidly weaken when it makes landfall as well. But you can experience hurricane force gusts as far south as Fort Myers, Cape Coral, and those areas inland along the Coxsackie Bay, okay, the Coxsackie Bay, because you're going to get the surge as well in that area too, even though the system is making landfall up here in like Venice or Osprey or something like that, okay? So that's what you need to be looking forward to. I'm glad that everyone evacuated because Milton is a strong storm. It will be a category, high-end category 2 when it makes landfall here along the coast here because it's merging with this front. Now, if you have any questions or concerns, I'll be back on again at after 11 a.m. after lunch to talk about more about the trajectory and the impacts that can be felt in terms of the rainfall and tornado potential. The wind shear is increasing here, and because the wind shear is increasing here, the National Weather Service is probably going to issue tornado watch for the peninsula of Florida. I expect those tornado watches to come out possibly after lunchtime today as the system gets closer. That won't as that because right now we're dealing with just these outer bands right now. We haven't got the out. These are just this is convection in front of Milton. We haven't gotten to the actual part of Milton, the outer bands yet. So once these outer bands push closer to the coast, we can expect that to come in more. Those things to come in more as well. Those watches and warnings to come in more. So be safe, everyone. Continue to prepare as best you can. We're gonna get through this. This is very actually good news that this is going into a more of a lesser populated area than I predicted before, and so I think Tampa St. Pete can breathe a sigh of relief. Even though they're going to get some flooding and some rain, it's not going to be as dramatic or bad as what was initially forecast with that 12 to 4 feet storm surge. Don't think that's going to pan out now, and all these numbers are going to have to be adjusted now because the system is heading further south as noted, and also the rain totals are going to be lesser too because the system is moving very fast, and so this is good news. This is very good news. So those of you who have told to shelter in place away from the beaches, of course, away from the coastline, doing a great job. Now, power outages. Power outages is still going to be a concern, but then they're going to be a lesser concern for those north of I-4. It's going to be a little bit lesser for those of you in Gainesville, Ocala. Now, power concerns will be a concern in Sarasota County, Manatee County. You guys will have to bear the brunt of the majority of the power outages. Some could be possible in Tampa area, but nothing too crazy because, like again, the majority of those core winds are only 30 miles across. The hurricane force winds, the winds greater than 75 miles an hour are only in a 30-mile zone from the eye, at least right now. Now, that could expand. Like I said, it's going through an eye-wall replacement cycle. But it won't expand. It only doubled, maybe to 60 miles, okay? The hurricane force winds. Even if it expands, the system is only so big because it's being cut off on the western end by this dry air, once again, and also the winds here. So it's only so big the system can grow, even after the eye wall replacement cycle. So at maximum, you're looking at a system that's going to grow. Let's say the tropical storm force winds extend right now 140 miles from the center, right? So let's say either way. So let's say it grows to 180 miles of tropical storm force winds. Okay, and let's say the hurricane force winds extend out 60 miles once the eye wall replacement cycle completes itself later on this afternoon. By 5 p.m. it should be done. By 2 p.m. I'm sorry, it should be done this afternoon Eastern time. So even with that being said, that still puts the majority, the core of the winds, only in a small zone from, let's say, Bradenton, Sarasota, down through Venice, Osprey, down through Fort Myers, maybe, if it makes it that far, okay? And then it's going to quickly weaken, and then everybody will just be dealing with tropical storm force conditions throughout the day on Thursday, okay, with some occasional gusts to 75 or 80 miles an hour, but that's going to be limited to those closer to the center of the circulation, which right now looks to be passing well south of I-4. So if you're on US 27 coming up through Sebring, Avon Park, Frostproof, down toward Yeehaw Junction, you guys are those counties to the east here, Indian River County, and and in those counties, Port St. Lucie, excuse me, you may be experiencing hurricane force winds. Everybody else is going to be experiencing tropical storm force winds or less, and just heavy rainfall, tropical rainfall from this system as it makes the landfall. So that's what we're going to be looking at. I'll come back on after lunchtime to give you that update, but just a recap for those who just come in. Hurricane Helene is going to make landfall somewhere south of Sarasota, probably toward Venice, Osprey right now, as a Category 2 high end with winds around 110 miles an hour, possibly 115 if it stays together. It's merging with a cold front right now, so it's weakening. Expect it to accelerate. It's moving northeast at 16. Expect that to accelerate northeast at 18 to 20 miles an hour by this afternoon. Also, you can expect storm surge to be less in Tampa St. Pete right now. They had it at 10 to 12 feet. They're going to have to bring those numbers down because you're going to be getting an offshore breeze, or offshore wind breeze, which is going to push water out of the bay. And you probably will only get like a 4 to 6 feet storm surge in Tampa Bay and St. Pete area. Down south, of course, you will get the 10 feet somewhere between Fort Myers Beach and up towards the Sarasota coastline or Manatee coastline or whatnot. Now, also, the last thing I want to tell you, too, just to recap everything, is that the system it's going to be a fast mover, so once it moves through Florida on Thursday, conditions will rapidly improve by 6 p.m. dinner time on Thursday. You'll just have a strong northeast breeze flowing over through Orlando, Jacksonville, St. Augustine, Tampa, places like that, in Miami, and you also have to watch out for rip currents and all of that on Friday. But other than that, things are going to be looking up and oh. Just to stay safe with the flooding, stay off the roads because the roads could be flooded, and stay away from the beaches and everything until the storm surge recedes and goes back and recedes. And that won't be until Friday or Saturday or Sunday, the weekend in some cases, depending on where the storm makes landfall and how high, where the 10 feet of storm surge is going to hit, most likely. So take care. I'll talk to you very soon, later on this afternoon. God bless. Bye-bye.